Listen, I have an idea.
It's how I feel when you make lemonade. Whatever today has given you. 511 headaches, still call it Thanksgiving. True.
Welcome to another edition of the Super Dupa podcast. I'm your host, Rob Griggs, here with the super producer, Ez McMahon.
Yes. What's going on, Rob? How you doing, man?
Hey, man, first, I got to apologize to you. Now, on the pod is, I've been like, you talk about you going golfing. I'm like, did I get an invite? Nope, I don't get an invite. And here it is, you invited. You hit me, dog. Trying to do this, and what I say, maybe alternate dates. I was like, yeah, I can't. So I got to apologize to you publicly, brother.
No, it's not. You know what? I got to push it out to the fellas. We got to see. Actually, you know what? It's got to be done during March Madness. We got to watch some games.
Yeah, it is.
The tournament's coming up, so we'll do it then.
And this is the golf year, dog. This is it. I know.
All right,
I've said it every year, but this is the golf year, man.
Hey, I went out and spent way too much money. I bought a new driver. I bought a new 3 hybrid. I can't wait for golf season to come.
Shout out to my man Sam. He gave me some golf clubs. I don't even want to say how many years ago, bro. That might be why my game is the way it is. I got old clubs. That might be why it's not the club. It's not the club.
No, it's not the clubs.
Hey, man, you had the degree so fast.
I can tell you.
Dang, go, man.
The clubs are just tools, man.
Jeez, Louise. Well, thank you for checking out the Super Duper Pod. We do not take your listens lightly. Make sure you follow us on all socials. What up, Sarah at Super Duper Pod, SUPADUPAPOD. Man, she said we're doing real good on the socials. Oh, but y'all like my accent. What up, bro?
Yes. Yeah, got to put that out there, man.
$1,000, Bob's your uncle. I mean, I'm practicing. Shout out to my man Manny. So many new words, man. Catch us on Spotify, bro. And you can also follow us on HP53 Productions for our. It's working.
It's working. I got some stuff. Hey, smoke. Working. Your mugs are on the way, buddy.
Like legit on the way. And Brush Besties. Appreciate your patience. Stuff is on the way. So check us out for your merch. Also check out additional content such as the Father Good podcast. And our own Ez McMahon with the Easy Smoke and GM.
we gotta talk about that.
And we do. So listen, so every time, so the reason why we paused after that, when we first started HP53 Productions, we had 3 podcasts, 3 very vibrant podcasts, right? SDP, Easy Smoking the GM, and then the Father Good podcast, right? And they had some good shows. There was 2 guys talking about fatherhood with other comedians. Great show, great idea, fantastic show. But then it stopped abruptly. And we still honor it because we got content on there, but
it's hours and hours of stuff. So definitely go check it out. It's really good.
Yeah, for real, it's real fun. I mean, like legit, some actors that you've seen on TV that you've be like, wait, that person was on a pod. Yes, these people were on the Father Good podcast. So it was a good show. We did some crossover pods with them, a Super Bowl pod. They came on the SDP a couple times. There's some good content with this. So please check out the Father Good podcast if you like archival information. There you go. Oh, yes, also follow us on YouTube.
Yes.
HP53 Productions. You can find this podcast, the video version there. So as you guys record this week?
We did. We talked the combine as the Bears prepare for this year's NFL draft, and the Bears made some big moves this week. Shoring up that offensive line. So we talked about that a little bit. We actually talked. You always say that I don't like the NBA, which is not true. Well, maybe I don't like the NBA. You know what? I don't like the NBA. The NBA sucks right now.
Heck,
but I love the game of basketball.
Okay.
So we did talk some Bulls basketball and how they don't really understand what the assignment is right now.
Yeah, lose.
Which is tank.
Like completely lose.
They're just going out and they're winning games they should be losing. They beat the Orlando Magic tonight.
Why?
Yes. And they're in the 10th spot now, and it looks like they're going to the play-in tournament.
Oh, yeah. Man, we've been playing. It should be called the Bulls Invitational. We're like in the 10th seed every year.
It's an automatic bid every year.
It's like welcome guys. So welcome to the Bulls Invitational, so we can lose again and get smacked around. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So they don't get the assignment. I mean, guys are hurt. Ayo's out for the season. Patrick Williams is out where he's a bum. But they keep winning, man. So there you have it.
it's rough to be a Chicago sports fan, man. I'm telling you, it's
extremely.
It's I mean, it's like ain't no light. Yes, I'm watching the Fire. I don't even know how good they doing, man.
No, the
But
Fire suck.
them high school teams it
The
is, I
Fire suck.
guess.
The
Yeah.
my Kenwood Broncos, man.
Mm-hmm.
Girls basketball in the state semis tomorrow, and boys basketball sectional final against Curie
Wait,
tomorrow.
I
So,
think the Ignatius girls are in the state finals as well.
oh, are they?
Yeah, that's gonna be something. Show some
Yeah,
money on that, man.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
there we go. No doubt.
Well, no, I think we're in different classes. I think you guys are in 3A, and
Okay.
we're in 4. I don't know.
Well, we gotta check. We gotta check that, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, make sure you check out the Easy Smoke and GM podcast wherever you get your podcast, especially on Spotify, bro. So today we're gonna keep it real brief because we got a great guest on the pod today. As you know, usually Ez and I we go through some stories, but I know you've watched everything. Shout out to my mom. You know, I try to call my parents every day. And usually I say, "Hey, mom, what's going on?" She goes, "You know who I'm watching on TV?" I know the answer, but I go, "Who, mama?" This dude, Trump. And then she lays out the news for the day, and it's like, I mean, every time you turn on a pod, a TV show, it's him, and he doing something different on every network. It's insane. But all jokes aside, this is a very trying time, right? And I think even talk about the Target 40-day fast, the blackout that happened last week. I know most of y'all actually went and got y'all gas on Thursday and then didn't go on Friday. You went to the store late Thursday evening and it said you support the blackout, but it's cool. But but you should support. We talked about it on one of the pods. Just like I'm in for the Target fast for sure, and because really not. It's like the boycotts got to be sustained over a certain amount of time for them to really feel the pinch. You know what I'm saying? And I understand what I won't knock the blackout just because we got to start having some things that are unified, right? That we are doing it together, right? But yeah, I don't want to knock the blackout because it was a people became unified and did something together. And that's something we got to get in the practice of, right? Just doing things together. And we talk about the elections, not just the presidential elections, the local elections that are coming up in your local areas, wherever you're from, be it your governor races, your mayoral races, any of the state offices that really all funnel up to the presidency. And so make sure you guys are paying attention to that. Read it for yourself. I talked about it before, but I still want to promote the Native Land Pod. Angela Rye, Tiffany Cross, Andrew Gillum, I think that's his name. They host it and they kind of give this, they do give this overview of what's happening in the White House and in the country and how it's going to trickle down and affect you. And they're always talking about ways to, improve and enhance the Black agenda. I think it's something we should definitely be discussing more. Like you and I have been discussing ways of making it happen. And that kind of leads it to our guest for the day. Like we talked about on the pod, what we definitely are going to do. We've done it before, but making a concerted effort, highlighting any Black businesses, any companies, things, places, whatever we can, to support, because that's going to be the new wave, right? We're going to have to build it ourselves and support it ourselves and fund it ourselves. And that's cool because we can do it and it can get done. So today's guest is a good friend of mine. We actually went to high school together. His name is hilarious. I made fun of him because he got on his work voice on this because he wild on the thread. Shout out to the thread. But shout out to my man, Coach Victor Hicks of Coding with Culture. It is an organization that teaches coding and other digital skills to Black children. And, I'll let Victor talk more about his company. So today on the Super Duper podcast, we got a very special guest, my good friend, Victor Hicks. Now, listen, you're going to hear his professional voice today. You should see him on a text thread. Way different, Victor. Shout out.
Now, listen, we got to keep, look.
Got to keep your checks coming in. I understand.
Right. Listen, we all have to, again, I think it's always making sure that we know how to code switch in those situations. But yeah, Coach Hicks is always interested when those worlds collide. Like I said, I figured like now I'm old enough to be teaching, we're old enough to have kids that are old enough for me to be teaching. So it's like, and I'm like, my dad said he knew you in high school. I was like, don't believe nothing he said.
I'm just waiting for a Harriet Tubman joke, the Sojourner Truth joke. They coming. I know they're on the way. Man. And shout out to the one and only Beyonce Carter behind you. I understand you. Go ahead, give her flowers if you need to. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Just any type of Black creativity. I'm so proud that she is. Of course, I'm definitely a member, card carrying member of the Hive, but I love the fact that she's continuing to change the trajectory. And I think again, that's as we were talking about before. Looking at what just redefining what Black is, or what Black success is, and how we can, you know, in spite of, because again, we've overcome before, and we've continued to move. You know, I think was it Maya Angelou that, you know, we rise. So yeah, I'm happy that she's getting the recognition for kind of breaking the mold. You know, and hopefully we can follow suit.
See, listen, everybody that know you listen to Threads cracking up. Like, he quoting books, he talking regular. Look at Vic. Look at Vic. So what was it? What was the point that you were like, I'm a card carrying member of the Bayhive for Beyonce? What do you remember, like, specifically? Like, you know what? I'm in. This is.
You know, it was honestly like, I felt like, because I'll be honest, and I tell people, like, I mean, I liked Destiny's Child. I did not, I wasn't like a super fan though. I was kind of like, okay, you know, I'm feeling them. But then when they did the first album drops, remember they did the one that they all did their own genre of album, and then they did the last Destiny's Child. I think it was that era, because it was like, okay, she's proven her own, like, and then I think she, you know, that's when you started to see the versatility, because now it's like, okay, she went from kind of the pop girl group, and then it's like, okay, she's singing now, like, and then it just went from there. Like, I mean, I am Sasha Fierce. Like, it just was like a constant, you know how the roller coaster goes up, and then it just hit that peak, and
that's awesome, man. When she performed, what's the song? God, I'm looking so crazy right now. She performed that like on the MTV Awards.
That was the era. Yep,
and it was like, whoa. It's a problem. Like, this is a problem. You know what I'm saying? And she's been up ever since, man. So shout out to one only.
Well, I mean, she's, like I said, she's giving you, and I think, like I said, she does enough to, you know, I love the fact there's always some message behind it, you know, and so whatever that is, it's not just, you know, whether it's homage to, you know, Tina or Mike or Prince, or, you know, she's, again, the whole country movement where, you know, again, part of our narrative, like, this was ours. So it's not stealing. It's just, you know, we're reclaiming what was ours to begin with, you know, at least some of the roots. I won't say all of it, but, you know, so again, I'm happy anytime, you know, I mean, Beyonce is definitely an extra bonus, but anytime somebody is, you know, pushing that or changing the narrative and pushing that envelope, I think it's a good thing.
We're gonna definitely get to your company and why you're here today. But I've never told you this Beyonce story. I actually met her once, man. And so
don't tell me that now. See, okay, I'm gonna leave that comment in the thread.
It's not a great story though. I kind of screwed it up. So I used to work for Vibe magazine, shout out to Vibe, and she was on the cover. She was coming to Macy's, and Kelly was there. I forgot which derivation of Destiny Child, but it was two others was there. They was, I don't know, no, it doesn't matter. So she's walking from old Marshall Fields, and I'm running down there with my coworker. Everybody know I was Beyonce crazy, right? I got the magazine, Vic. I got my business card in my hand. It's like, I'm not like the rest of these minions. I'm legit. Like, I'm supposed to be here. Vic, she's probably 8 feet in front of me, walked by me, looked at me, and I went, opened my mouth, and I was like, that's all I could do. And I was like, wow.
Robert.
My friend laughed at me, and she kind of looked and kept walking. I was thinking, like, I could have had a whole different life. Podcast.
I could have had a whole different life.
Like, almost.
Hell.
Understand me? My bad. I had to get that out. Of my system.
We could have Blue Ivy, could have been in Coding with Culture, everything.
You understand me? You do. Listen, honestly, I'll probably be acting real funny. I'm wearing scarves in the summertime. I'm just probably brand new. So maybe God saw fit that I should be different. But
right, you know, Jay-Z said, you know, no sock summer, the whole, you know.
Hey, Vic.
So, God knew you were ready. That's what it was. He was like, no, he ain't.
I've been a whole new guy. Okay, so we got you here for a reason, man. Not just talk about Beyonce, although we could do that for the next half hour. But we want to have you on Black History Month because of what you do. Now, of course, the schedule didn't work out, but as we discussed, it's some kind of month we're celebrating, and we can celebrate Black history all through the year.
365, right? Exactly.
So we don't want to hold that back from us. But you have a company, Coding with Culture, that helps students learn about STEM and specifically Black students. So I want to give you the plaque just a minute just to talk about what you do and what your company is.
Okay. So Coding with Culture was kind of really a plane that we were building as we were flying it. We were in the middle of a pandemic. You know, I had been teaching forever and a day. I think at that point it was 15 years. And I'm like, hey, you know, these kids are really getting into this computer science. I'm not really having the same complaints as a lot of other teachers. Like, my kids are signing in, you know, they're engaged. We're building these projects. So again, a lot of it was, you know, they're taking ownership over what they're doing. And I'm like, they're learning a skill that's pretty beneficial, you know, to boot. So had some parents that said, hey, you know, would you be willing to do some camps with the kids over the break since they can't go to, you know, regular camp? And literally went from there. So what we do, our big, I say our driving force or our gasoline behind our movement is trying to build a kindergarten to HBCU pathway in computational thinking and design thinking. So pretty much computer science, but the larger umbrella. And really one reason that became so important to me is that as I started teaching computer science, I'm like, okay, this is more of a social justice equity issue because this is going to be the next keys to the city, so to speak. And one or two things is going to happen for Black or brown kids. Either we're going to jump on the wagon because the great part is it's accessible. You don't necessarily have to have a 4-year degree. You don't necessarily have to mean you can, but there's so many different pathways. You know, I think about when our parents told us about getting a trade, you know, computer science, technology is that trade now. The great part about it is there's so many different pathways, but if the kids aren't exposed, if the kids don't realize these opportunities exist, then we'll be in the second option, which means our kids are going to be further behind when we talk about, you know, just being able to keep up because we are definitely 2 feet in, you know what I'm saying, on the information age. And I said, well, as we're looking at this, and HBCUs have always been a part of what I do, you know, whether it be the STEP team or there always was some connection back to HBCUs, just because that was such a pivotal experience, you know, just growing up and being, you know, on so many different levels. But I think for me, it was like, okay, if we're going to ask kids to go into these areas where, you know, only 3%, or we're looking at these numbers, like 3% of all engineers are Black, you know, even less than that are Black women. And so that's not a space you can just walk into without your, you know, proverbial set of armor. So thankfully, we have these institutions that, you know, are really cool places to learn about. So if we're going to build apps or build, you know, these are great things for kids to, I mean, so many benefits, seeing themselves in successful positions, realizing that there are schools for people innately like them, you know, but also to boot was like, well, hey, if you're going to be entering into these rooms where you're going to have to be self-sufficient. That's one thing that we know. If it's only 3% of Black folks or engineers of the Black folks, that 3% got to be on point. And the great part is that we do have these institutions that specialize in that. And so really from there, it just became, you know, that people started saying, okay, well, Lord, I guess paying attention. They're like, well, maybe he knows what he's talking about. Yeah. And so we got invited to do a couple, you know, conferences, and the mission really started to spread. So about 4 years after that, a year after that. So about 4 years now, I've been doing it full time. So we work with students one-on-one, you know, similar to Aiden. So we do the virtual classes. We do partnerships with organizations that serve Black and brown kids. So that's homeschool pods. We have a big thing here in Atlanta now, the micro schools, which are pretty much like independent schools, small groups of, you know, families that get together and then we work with educator empowerment. So getting more teachers to be able to teach what we call culturally relevant computer science STEM experiences. So, you know, because again, I love doing the work, but it's only one Coach Hicks. So I feel like you know, that's where we kind of what's that, you teach a man to fish. So that way we have more teachers that are, you know, realizing, because the reality is with budget, I mean, I would love for every school to have a computer science teacher, but we know that's not going to be the case. You know, it's not the way that the ball bounces. But again, if we have a army of teachers that are saying, okay, hey, how can I incorporate these skills in a math class or in a science class or in a social studies class? The thing is that the big part in that K-8 space is that our kids are getting the exposure. So our hope is to, number one, you know, be that partner if needed, or at least make sure that we can train enough teachers to get the message out.
Yeah. You know, you were talking a lot about the pathways, right? And that's interesting because lately I've been hearing a lot about these pathways. For example, how your 7th grade determines like the rest of your education in terms of if you do well in 7th grade, that means you can get to a quote unquote good high school. Then from there you get to good college. Or like even at my church, shout out to Progressive here in Chicago, we have a Black Boy Lit campaign where they are saying, you know, if most people, once they get to a 3rd grade reading level, they have a higher success rate from that point on. But most Black men, unfortunately, most of them don't have a 3rd grade reading level. So it's like you try to catch the boys at 3rd grade to improve their reading so then they can kind of fast track to that. So it seems like what you guys are doing, I want you to expand on this more, just like not just waiting until a person gets to high school, or when they graduate and be like, hey, what you going to figure out? Because even as a parent, right, I'm always thinking about how can the mom and I prepare them now for the stuff in the future, because I'm sure I'm sure you're the same way. You look back and think, man, I would have done this differently, would have started this earlier, XYZ, had I even known and thought about it. But go ahead.
And what's interesting is like my father is a computer scientist. So, when I was coming through CA or coming through college, back in the year one, my thing was, computer science, they weren't worried about it being accessible. And I remember my father saying, okay, you want to spend all this money, you should major. And I wanted no parts of computer science. Like I was like, because again, they weren't trying to make it relatable. It was like, if you were one of those ones that got it, you got it. And, that's what it was. But I think for me, it was, really the thing of trying to think how I could put that part. But go ahead, ask that question again for me and make sure I'm getting that. I want to make sure I'm telling the right story on that part.
Sure. We were just talking about what the pathways and just talking about just how
the seventh grade, right?
Yeah.
So I think for me, the pathways it definitely is, and again, as we were in our earlier conversation, I think, it's keeping that balance between, pushing our kids to be successful, but also realizing a lot of these systems in themselves, the measures themselves, how the metrics that we're using are inequitable. So, it's like, how do we make sure that our kids are ready to compete? But also realize that they're not so bogged down in a system that is, not necessarily designed for them to succeed. So for us, the pathway, and that's one reason we tend to use pathway versus pipeline, because a lot of times you hear that connotation, especially with Black children, about, what all these things, and it's always tied into these negative, pipelines. If they don't have this test score, they're more likely to go to prison. And so for us, is how can we step in? How can we be a vehicle to come in and create an alternative? So yeah, still a pathway, because the good part about it is that of the two, both of them are a plan, right? It gives you a trajectory in your life. But I think trying to give us as much, I think I would say self-determination is the word, so that, we are not as much, because again, some parts we're part of a society, but also realizing that our kids are ours. And so we don't want to continue to set them up for these pathways that are not necessarily meant for them to be as successful as they can, And so again, all that to say, looking at the programs, even if, of course, we can't expect everyone to, pull out of public school in the next year, but if your kids are there, how do we supplement? How does Coding with Culture, how do other organizations come in to help correct, like again, very similar to how your church is doing, is realizing this is happening, what it's meaning for our kids. So how do we shift the narrative, so to speak? How do we step into the gap and make sure that, because again, we talk a lot about the deficits, but what are the actionable steps to address them? Because the thing of it is that, like you said, it's troubling that, there's even statistics big enough for Black boys to even, for there to have been enough studies or enough kids that fit those studies for us to not say, okay, then again, our children, again, we don't necessarily want to say that they can't be around or taught by others, but if it's not working, this is the future, so to speak. This is our investment in the future, or the future of our community. So how do we, either change the narrative, or until we can completely build our own, or if that's even something we want to look at, what do we do in the meantime to make sure our kids have what they need,
Sure.
and not just leaving that in the arms of other people. It's great if they can, if not, and then, like I was sharing with you earlier, I think in the wave of this current political, environment,
President Musk, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. The foolishness is going on. I mean,
yeah.
My thing is that if you, and it was somebody I was listening to, I forget, one of the podcasts or something, and they were saying, I mean, if we think about this institution of the presidency of the United States, at one point upheld slavery, and when you think about that, it's kind of like, okay,
yeah.
So we know that it ain't always been sweet. You know what I'm saying? Like it has not always been good, and it was a lot less. I mean, I feel like we're not quite as bad yet. I ain't gonna say what's gonna happen, but our call to our people, and that's all I can really be concerned about, is y'all, we've done this. Like no other race or ethnicity of people overcame, chattel slavery, and the outcome of that was a system of universities. Like, y'all don't want to give us education? Cool. We're gonna build not one, but 100. You know what I'm saying? Hundreds of these HBCUs. So I just feel like we have to kind of look back and say, okay, the immediate is how do we supplement our kids so that they can compete.
Mm-hmm.
Long term, how do we start creating our own narrative? So our kids aren't taking standardized tests because as a community, we realize that these tests are not conducive to the way our children learn. So that data is inconsequential to our kids. But again, I think that takes time, and that really comes back with more of like reclaiming our own narrative pretty much. But I think the time is now. And I think with, like I said, President Musk and all this craziness is going on. Yeah.
So let's talk. Let the people hear about some of the courses you offer, right? Because I was looking through it. I know you got your coding and your gaming class, but I want to talk about this Black History class that you have for students. So like how? So I'm assuming you're teaching them about Black history through. I'll let you explain it. You go ahead.
So we do a couple things. So we have all of our classes have some type of culturally relevant theme. So one of the things that works with coding and culture, and I think I learned very on in computer science, is that Black and brown children function best when they see the real world connection. So even in my first years, a lot of the coding was like, hey, just have them get on, they can do this. And it's like I had a couple years of kids, and I'm like, they were really excited, they loved it. And then by the time they got to high school and coding stopped being fun, nobody was sticking with it. So I'm like, okay, which is great. I mean, if they're getting the exposure, but if it's still not propelling these kids into these careers, or they're not sticking with it, what do we need to do? So I said, okay, well, let's connect this to the real world. We know that mobile apps are a thing. We know that websites are a thing. We know that video games are a thing. So how do we connect these coding skills or these design skills to get kids to understand how they can take what they already know, take the things they love, and make it a career or their own business or whatever, whichever route they decide to take. But the Black history part, we wanted to make sure they also understood the responsibility to the community. So we do have the standalone Black history classes, because again, to directly address, this foolishness, which is no reason for us to bow our heads. We've dealt with racism before. And we started our own schools. So, that was kind of where the concept came and said, okay, we're going to take Black history out of the schools, and we just put things into place. We've taught on Zoom, we've taught on Google Meet. Let's start Black history classes. And then with the technology piece is that we want to make sure that as we start to inspire, as we start to grow the next generation of Black and brown engineers, that they realize there's a responsibility to the community. So if you go out and you get these degrees and you start your own tech startups, we need you to hunker down, and understand that this is part of the greater community. So we really, like I said, our idea is number one, to on the surface give them the Black history background, give them the foundation, because again, if the schools do it, great. If not, we got enough teachers, it's right. We got enough, right? We have enough spaces to do it on our own. And then two, with the technology, where the Black history comes in is that, so again, to not use Ignatius terms, we will know your heritage. We need you to know that this, so if you don't learn how to build an app, we need you to know that, we need apps for the Black community. So we don't want you to go just out there and get lost thinking that, so yeah, we have always done it. We become more intentional about, it's like now, for example, we have Black history courses that may not be as tech based. Everything is through a project though. So like if they do the one of ours that stands out is our Sisters of the Struggle. So the kids know a lot about, of course, a lot of the less controversial Black history figures, but one of our middle school courses is they learn about and research, the women in the Black Panther Party. And then the idea is, the big question, so how do we teach more people in the community about these people? Because, all we hear about is MLK, Rosa Parks, the same. And then where the coding comes in is that the method of communication is building a website. So the tech skill would be, but of course, as they're building or I guess gathering the content, they're looking at or being exposed to this Black history, this culture, etc. So we look at a way to try to really balance the two. Most of it, as I'm thinking, though, all of it kind of has some tech to it, because like they're usually, again, we don't want it to feel like, back in the day when we were writing a paper or doing a simple slide deck. Like there's a way that you can take this learning and then apply that to something in your real world experience.
And most of all, I'm sure the kids are having just a great time. Like, because I love it when it's like they think they won't like it and they end up loving it. Like I never thought I love something like this, man. Yeah, I'm sure you got plenty of examples of just kids like, I thought I was gonna hate this. I didn't want to do it. My mama made me do it. My daddy made me do it. But
they be real mad. real bad. But like I said, by like the sixth, I had a young man who just did the one of our Georgia, well, actually all the states have the congressional app challenge. And so he was like, oh, I
What is
want to
that?
learn how to code. So there's like the Congress, well, I think all the states participate now, but like each state, they submit an app.
Okay.
And then it's like a contest. So you have your state contest first, and then
Really?
the winner of that goes. Yeah. So we started entering kids. If they start with us in usually about, let's see, TJ started in so about September. And then as they go through the course, usually they have an app that's developed enough to submit. But yeah, they can do. I mean, there's that's not the only two. Those are just two that we've done, and they usually take place. So kids start about 6 months before now. They usually have an app ready to go. Because like I said, we like them to see that there's a purpose. Like these things you just don't create and then they go away. There's ways that you can make this if you do like it. But also teaching kids that coding is not the only entry into tech, because somebody has to dream up the idea. They have to understand how coding works, but they may not ever sit there and type a line of code, but again, so same way that you say, like, if we teach kids to read or we teach them the alphabet, kids that are going to become Zora Neale Hurston or, author, they have to learn the same out, but they're doing a different thing with this form of literacy, so to speak. So really, just like I said, allowing kids, because I think one thing I noticed about Black and brown students is that they innately have more creativity, right? I feel like that's just a part of who they are. We've been problem solving and figuring out for just the beginning of time. But if we can connect the hard skills, those, 21st century skills, to that creativity, I think our kids could be I wouldn't even say could be, they will be unstoppable. And so that's why for us, it's the urgency to tell parents, like, this is the opportunity that if we jump on this, we good. Like, we will be okay. I think, but if our kids get further behind, that gap will never be the same,
Mhm. So now I know a lot of times in STEM, like with the Census Bureau, it talks about how like 27% of most people in STEM are only 27% are women. So do you have a lot of girls that are in your classes take advantage of the courses?
We do. We get a lot of and I was going to say they had a different kind of a different method of I think, or how I should say, is that allowing girls to chart their own course. One of the things we saw when they first were kind of really looking at this equity push was, okay, the girls are going to want to code Barbie, or the girls are going to want, it has to be like a fashion related game. And what I found is that most of my girls, I won't say all, but they wanted to build the same things. Like, I mean, and again, looking at their because again, I believe every child has certain possibilities, but when you can, again, giving them those skills, allowing them to say, okay, well, hey, maybe I want to create this. I mean, I would say I've probably been more surprised, or more pleasantly surprised, with when giving kids the opportunity to create those things or to chart their own course, kind of figure it out. Yeah, it's a matter. Our girls are, I think, but it's I and to not sound cliche, it's really looking at when you see them have those aha moments. So, you're like, oh, women in STEM, but it's like, no, these kids have some really good, you know, skill sets. So, yeah.
Good. So there's a quote on your site, man. I'm gonna wrap in a little bit. There's a quote on your site. It talks about we're not here to expose them to STEM, but here to prepare them to lead it. I thought that was a powerful statement, because it's like, it's one thing I can show you, I can expose you to a lot of different things, right? But teaching you to be a leader into it, I think that's a very vision forward kind of statement. You know what I'm saying? So I'm proud of you guys for putting that forward. Do you want to expand on that more? I mean, because I thought that was a very powerful sentence, because a lot of times we're hearing people have programs just to expose, like, see how fun it is. But it's like, even talking about it, no, like, really learn it, lean into it. You can be a leader of this space.
Yeah, and I think that's really our thing behind our mission statement of our that kindergarten to HBCU pathway, is that we are fortunate enough as Black people to have a complete system of whatever it is you want to do. You know what I'm saying? We have these places where these spaces are intentionally carved out for you to be successful. So, just like with anything, we start out with exposure in the, early years, but making sure that we're connecting that exposure to real life skills, because that's where the impact is really made, right? Because it's kind of like you cast a wide net in computer science very early on, because you want kids to be exposed. You want to see that it is accessible. There's ways to, start to shape your mind to think, you know. But they have, what's the word I'm looking for? I think that it's the intentionality. You have to make sure that we're connecting okay, so if we like this spark, here's how we, at an age appropriate level, we start to release, okay, this is how we, again, where the project-based learning comes in. So we want the kids to see, this app design. Now, of course, you may be building a more complex one as you get into high school and to college, but the way that this problem solving, the way that this design process goes is the same. And it can be taught, so that you get the basis of it, you get the foundation. So as your skills continue to develop, you see how this is tracking you. You know what I'm saying? So again, you have the idea. It's just, and now as you get to be more skilled and as you're able to be, more to learn more, or to, absorb more complex things, you already have an understanding of where that pathway is. And again, even within the HBCU. So, hey, if this is something that you want to do, I think, yes, Georgia State is a great environment. Georgia Tech is a great environment. But right now, and I would just, I think, again, we talk about being aware of the current situation, is that, your kid might go to a Georgia Tech. Again, we're talking about something as crucial of, when we're looking at statistics of only 3% of engineers being Black, less than that. I don't even think we're at a percentage point for Black women, but wow. How do we connect those type of, because again, we have the school, so we have the Spelmans, we have the Clarks, we have the FAMUs. And the difference is that, if in an ideal society, yes, they may go to a Georgia Tech and they might, find that mentor, they may find that professor. The thing of it is that we know the battle is much more crucial right now. So it's not if you can go to a school and know that you can invest your time to your child who's already excited about STEM, that knows they want to go into these fields, that has this experience, put that money where they're going to be invested. So like I said, all of that is really looking at that. So I guess that's kind of the meat and potatoes of that kindergarten to HBCU pathway. So, we want to get kids excited as early on, and realizing that there's not this mysterious world that you have to, it's right here in your backyard. It's your community. There are teachers that teach all the way up until, you can't teach no more, that mirror some of the same teaching styles, and just being aware of who you are as a person. And I think, like I said, since we have it, why not use that? But again, I think you have to be intentional about creating that and making sure that kids realize, and I'm even careful what I share with my students about, this presidency is, okay, we're not going to wallow in the what if, it sucks. It's not what we wanted, but we're here. And so now what do we do? What can I start doing in kindergarten? What can I start doing in fourth grade? What should I be doing in eighth grade to get ready? And so again, if we correct this wrong and, next 4 years, it's a different situation, great, that we were just that much further ahead. But if not, we can't keep, wringing our hands and wondering what it is. And so again, the first level of armor to me, was the youth. Wow. Because they're next. We're here. I mean, we're kind of holding the battle lines down now, but we have to get them ready. And the one thing we can say that this administration has taught us is it's not a game anymore.
Not a game.
They're not even playing. They're not playing nice anymore.
Super facts. Super facts, man. So I just want to make sure people understand that this is you offer virtual courses. So, no matter where you are across the country, California, New York, all points in between, up and down, they can sign up, their children contact you and work with your company, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So yep, we can do we do our virtual classes. We actually have an hour of code coming up in the fall. We're going to be doing some virtual work with some students in Nigeria. So technically we're globally.
Oh,
so we're doing we're doing a global hour of code. So
we in Nigeria. You ever heard of that, Rob? You ever heard of Nigeria? I'm just saying. Continue.
But yeah, so we're, but again, we do have our in-person. Again, I travel, so we have some partner schools in Chicago. We have currently working with some of the private, let's say the micro schools I was telling you about here in Atlanta. But yeah, we're here. Our website, all of our social medias, everything is Coding with Culture. Please look us up. Again, we're a very organic company, meaning Coach Hicks will be answering the messages. So.
Well, listen.
But yeah, no, it's.
And I support you in your entrepreneurial journey, man. I know you got dreams, but dreams don't keep the lights on. Shout out to little brother. So tell people where they can find you. Make sure you give your Instagram handle, website, phone, all that stuff. Pigeon handle, all whatever. Hit it.
Yeah, absolutely. So visit us at codingwithculture.com. You can find all of our courses that we offer, the registration forms. Our Instagram is Coding with Culture as well. Make sure I'm not. Twitter is the only one that's different. So we didn't have enough characters, so it's Coding W Culture. LinkedIn, Coding with Culture. We're old, Rob. I got to keep it simple. I got about 5 good passwords in me, so I.
Hey man, if they ask me to make one more password, I'm just about to be open to the public. Whatever.
Well, I joke. I told myself with teachers, I'm like, then they expect us like every 5 months. It cancels you out, so then you have to come up with it, and it can't be the one that you used like 6 times before. I said, okay, I only got so many nieces and nephews.
So many streets I lived on. Yeah, everything, man.
Then I forget, right? I start forget to which generation I'm on. Okay, wait, am I on the college nieces and nephews, or is this the babies? So
that's hilarious, man. Well, listen,
yeah,
Victor Hicks, man, Beyonce's #1 fan. Thank you for joining us on the Super Duper podcast, man. I appreciate you.
Absolutely, brother. Sounds good, man.
I want to thank Victor Hicks, Coach Victor Hicks, as I should say, for introducing us to his company. Make sure you check him out, Coding with Culture. You can find him on all socials, find him on his website. And again, shout out to my son who's part of his class. His mom signed him up. So, I know it's a great class. Again, kids need to learn more about STEM, right? And get into STEM fields. We talked about some statistics and why this stuff is important. And I mean, it just opens up the world of opportunities for them, right? The world is becoming more digital. You and I talk about AI, like AI relationships that people having, which is nuts. Sidebar, I have been using that Allen Iverson a little bit more lately than I normally have, man. And it's been
told you about that, man.
Man, I don't know. I mean, Allen Iverson, it's to get me out of some jams. I told you, up, man. I'm just saying. A couple times at Allen Iverson, I couldn't think of something to work. I was like, hey, I need help with this. I spit it out for him. I was like, yo, phrasing. And I was like, thank you very much. I appreciate that. So
next thing you know, it's gonna have access to your bank account, Social Security.
I might be robbing my desk. I'm just gonna go back in my car and go home. You might do the job better. I'm doing it, fam. So hey, knock him dead.
It's gonna take your girlfriend. It's everything, man. It's crazy.
Hey, man, I can get some sleep. It might not be a bad thing.
I didn't say that.
No, I just jokes. But thank you for checking out the Super Duper Pod. We do not take your listeners lightly. Make sure you follow us on all socials, SUPADPAPOD. What up, Sarah? And online at hp53productions.com. As I miss anything?
No, I think you covered it all.
Fantastic. Make sure you take care of yourselves and each other. Hey, mama, this is the Super Duper Podcast.
We make lemonade out of pain. That's champagne, real pain. Real pain, champagne from you and I. Wait, you and I? Now that's champagne if you was I. Would you be off on this campaign? Is it suicide? If you know that bringing hope is how careers die. Or do the K stand for kamikaze? The J silent is everywhere, you can feel them probably. Surely, lately, I've been up late with demons in my basement trying to get me to hate this. Life thinking I should be further and then I choke up. As soon as I got silent, then the truth spoke up. They said, how you know you ain't perfect? Let that soak up and soak in. You know how you know that you blessed? I woke up.